The Bitter Side of Sweet, Chapter 11. As we walk along the track, the trees around us change. There are some cacao trees like the ones we spend all year tending and harvesting, but I see many more green banana trees and even a few fruit trees. I know where the green bananas go since that's sometimes all we get to eat for weeks on end, but we've never been given any papayas, mangoes, or coconuts. I guess the bosses keep those for themselves. I'm just wondering how much farther we have to go when the track ends, and there, sitting in a clearing, is the boss's house. The thin moonlight shoves the house's blocky form forward and shadows what might be a vegetable garden off to the left. The house has a good tin roof and looks plenty big enough for a family, let alone 3 men. When I think of how so many of us are crammed into the sleeping hut every night, it makes me want to go over there and tear that nice tin roof off with my bare hands. I stand for a moment, taking it in and letting the unbroken night noises of the bush soothe my nerves. Khadijah is a shadow rooted to the spot beside me. I reach out and take her hand and pull her forward. Once she is moving, I let go again. We slink to the side of the house and slowly creep around it. I wave my hand in a circle in front of her face, trying to tell her that I want to look around the house before we do anything else. I don't know if she understands, but she nods and we set off. The short grass and little rocks are prickly under my bare feet. I try to sneak without a sound, but I'm not doing a very good job of it. With every step, I knock loose some pebbles or scuff my foot on a chunk of masonry hidden in the grass. I cringe, but don't stop. Other than the vegetable garden, a pit latrine, and a small generator, there's nothing on the outside of the house. Definitely no Sadhu. I steam quietly to myself in frustration. What now? Khadijah's whisper in my ear is so soft even I can barely hear it. I shrug angrily, then I lean my face into her ear and whisper, "Only thing for it is to check the windows. Don't get caught." We circle the house again. I push my face against the bars covering the first window and see a central living area. In one corner there's a propane tank and a little stove. On a crate in the far corner, a television sits next to a car battery. The bulb hanging from the center of the ceiling shows that the bosses could even have light if they wanted to use the generator. "Wow, what a dump," whispers Khadijah beside me. I turn to her, eyebrows arched in surprise, because I was just thinking that this is one of the best built houses I've seen. I guess even in the low light, Khadijah is able to catch my expression. "Well, it is. There's hardly any furniture. They don't have doors to the bedrooms. There's no glass on any of their windows, and they're using a car battery to run their TV. I mean, I kind of thought that being in charge and all, they'd have a nicer place." I wonder what on earth she's comparing it to. It's so much better than my family's house in our village. Glass in the windows? Either she's richer than I thought, or her mother worked in a rich person's house as a maid. I decide the mystery can wait until we're not in so much danger. She wouldn't tell me her story when I asked her before, and even if she would tell me now, this is not the place for storytelling. "Come on," I say. The next 2 windows we look into are bedrooms. They're almost identical. A gray, hollow-looking mattress sits on the floor with a boss sprawled across it, asleep. The walls are bare except for a few pictures ripped from magazines and newspapers. There's only one window left, and it must be Musa's bedroom. I lift my face slowly over the sill, heart hammering, and peek in. The room is much the same as the other 2, gray mattress, torn pictures, but this room has one addition that makes me whole again. Because the person sleeping on the mattress, his left elbow stump wrapped in a bandage and propped on a pile of crumpled newspaper, is my brother. I look around the room again and see Musa lying across the doorway on a blanket. It's where I would have slept if I was being careful to keep the other bosses away from Sadhu, and I feel an odd warmth in my heart for Musa. I feel a pull on my arm. When I turn, Khadijah points away from the house. Though it feels like going in the wrong direction, I follow her until we're both crouched in the thick shadows where the yard turns wild. I'm breathing hard. Beside me, Khadijah's completely calm. "We have to get him out of there," I say. Even though we're more than 5 meters from the windows and the night breeze is blowing in our faces, taking the sound away, I keep my voice pitched low. Khadijah chews on her thumbnail, pulling with her other hand at the fraying knot of braids at the top of her neck. There are bars on the windows, she points out unnecessarily. I know there are bars. What if I went in and carried him out? She shoots me an unbelieving look. He's in the same room as Musa. You think Musa's not going to notice you dancing around him to grab your brother? I imagine Musa waking and catching me with Seydu in my arms. Trapped in that little room, there'd be nowhere for me to hide, no way to run. With the added weight and awkward bulk of my brother, there's little hope I could get out of the house without him catching us. Maybe he wouldn't wake up, I mumble. You're willing to risk all of our lives on a maybe? I stare at the window. To be so close to Seydu and unable to get him is so frustrating, I want to punch something. Instead, my frustration washes out of me, taking the last of my energy with it, and I surprise myself by yawning. What else can we do? I ask around the yawn. How long has it been since I've slept? A day and a night? More? How long since I've slept well? Forever. I yawn again. I don't like our options, she finally says around a yawn of her own. You can sneak in now and probably get caught. Or we can wait until tomorrow and try to get him away from them sometime during the day. Waiting means we get to sleep before we run, which we need, but we can't be sure that we'll have another chance to get him, especially once they see that you're not in the shed where you're supposed to be. She shoots me a fierce look, and I'm not going to that shed again, no matter what. I chew on my lower lip while I consider. I imagine all the terrible ways this could go wrong. Then I imagine not ever having this opportunity again. Khadijah sees the look on my face. You're going in. It's not a question. I nod. She shakes her head slowly. All right, let's go. What do you mean, let's? I ask. It's too dark to see the look she gives me. We do this together, is all she says. I shrug, slap my hand against my cheeks a few times to clear the sleepiness that is making it hard to make decisions, and creep across the yard to the house, heading for the front. I'm grateful the door has no lock, but remembering the padlock on the boy's sleeping hut makes me angry. I'm grateful for the anger because it burns off the sluggishness. We step carefully into the main room of the house. Instantly, Khadijah heads to the table near the simple stove. When she touches the stuff on it, it rattles softly. I race over and grab her hand. Shh, I whisper, shaking her wrist. Does she not have any idea how dangerous this is? She wrenches her hand away from me and points. I look more closely at what's on the table and see a small open box beside a half-sliced papaya. Spilling out of the box are various small canisters and rolls of bandages. Khadijah points between the stuff on the table and the room that Seydu's in. I see the need for bandages, so I shrug in apology. Leaving her to find whatever she's looking for, I tiptoe to Moose's room. At the darkly shadowed doorway, I freeze. The gray mattress on the floor under the window looms in my sight. Seydu's not moving. Why is he not moving? Moose's back is centimeters from my toes. I find that I'm having trouble breathing normally. All my doubts about this come rushing over me, making me reconsider. A soft clatter from the front room makes me jump. What is that idiot girl doing? Sorting through their silverware? Heart hammering, I turn my attention to the situation in front of me again and note, to my horror, that Moose's breathing is shallower and more irregular. Khadijah's noise is slowly waking him up. I don't have any more time. Stretching on my toes as high as I can go, I step over Musa, as far away from his face as I can get. Holding my breath, I walk toward the bed slowly, lifting each foot straight up and then lowering it, toes first, rolling silently onto my heel. It is the quietest way to walk. All the while my eyes dart between Moose's face and Seydu's. I keep dreading seeing Moose's eyes fly open. I can nearly touch Seydu. I can smell my own terror. Another step. Another jingle from Khadijah. I'm going to kill that girl myself if we all get away from here. And then I'm at the end of the mattress, and Seydu sprawled below me. Now's the time to move fast, whispers a voice in my head. but I can't obey it. I touch Seiru's face. I'm terrified that he's going to startle awake, screaming, like he did in the sleeping hut. Instead, touching him is like pushing on river mud. He doesn't move or give any sign that he's alive. Only the shallow movement of his chest tells me he's not dead. Even though the evening is cool, I'm sweating. Any second now, Musa or Seiru could wake up and we'll be all done for. I squat beside Seiru and slowly work my arms between his body and the mattress. He's still hotter than he should be, but not as hot as he was before. After what seems like hours, my hands work free on the far side of my brother. Slowly, even though my back screams in agony at lifting so much weight at such an angle, I roll Seiru against me and lift him off the mattress. His good arm is sandwiched between our bodies, and his wrapped elbow hangs free. Cradling him against me, I turn around and stare at the form blocking the doorway. Behind Musa, through the door, I can see Khadija, biting her lower lip in terror. I look at Musa's face. There's a furrow between his eyebrows now, and his breathing is light and very irregular. The hairs along my neck rise and prickle, but I'm committed now, and I keep walking. One step, another. I'm close enough to feel Moose's body heat. My sweat is making Seiru slippery in my arms. Taking a deep, silent breath, I clutch Seiru to me as hard as I can and step over Musa. As soon as my 2 feet touch the floor of the main room, I head toward the door. Khadija slips out a second ahead of us. I follow on her heels and find myself outside. I feel a lightness in my chest and opening up. The sky is high and clear and covered in the last few stars before dawn. It's what I imagine my soul looks like right now. Khadija comes up beside me. Is he okay? She asks in a whisper. I don't know. Can you help me get him in a better position to carry? Yes. Let me just find somewhere to put all this. I glance at her. I hadn't even noticed until this minute how much she's carrying. What's all this? I ask, bending backward to hold Seiru's weight while she shoves things into my pockets. A water bottle, the medicine kit I found, and some money. I feel the irregular bulges press into the sides of my legs. The weight of the water bottle pulls one side of my pants down lower on my hip than the other. I'll take them in a second. Here, what do you want me to do? Put his hurt arm up and get his head onto my shoulder. Yeah, and... But I never get any farther than that, because suddenly Khadijah's eyes go wide. I whip around to see why, and there, framed in the shadowed doorway to his house, is Musa. For a split second, we all stare at each other. Then Musa lunges after us. Reflexively, I grab Seiru tighter against me and run, but I haven't made a dozen steps when Musa grabs me. Seiru jolts awake and twists in my arms, screaming in fear and pain. I stagger off balance but don't drop him. Musa's fingers cut into my biceps, and I struggle against him, but can't get free. He backhands me across the face, and I stop struggling as my world spins. It was crazy to run, crazy to hope. Now I'm doomed Seiru to a horrible life, and Musa's probably going to kill me. I waste a moment wishing I could have seen home again, just once more, or at least that the people I love knew what happened to me. But then I sink into my empty place and wait for the worst to happen. Suddenly, Musa lurches away, leaving me unbalanced. I see small arms wrapped around his neck, and my empty place explodes into sound. Musa yelling his head off, and Khadija grabbing onto him and kicking at his legs with all her might, screaming at me to run. Over Musa's head, my eyes meet Khadija's and hold for a moment. She's frightened, but isn't letting go. Seiru's warm and heavy against my chest. I turn on my heel and run as fast as I can. For a while, I run through the bush, fueled purely by fear. I absolutely expect to hear the bosses getting closer and closer to me as I pound away, but instead I hear only an ever-increasing hum of bugs and the loud thrashing of my own clumsy feet through the dead leaves on the forest floor. As the terror of the night burns off, exhaustion takes over. Sadhu feels heavier than anything I've ever carried, and the water bottle Khadijah put in my pocket slams against my leg with every step. When I can't run anymore, I collapse on the ground with Sadhu. I'm panting from the jarring run, and Sadhu is clutching his arms to himself and sobbing. As the minutes pass and our breathing slowly returns to normal, I finally feel the truth. They're not coming. We got away. Surely they'll probably still come chasing us, but this is the best chance to escape that we've ever had. I pick myself off the ground and touch Sadhu lightly. How are you? I ask. Sadhu whimpers and shakes his head but won't talk. That's okay. He should save his strength for later. Right now we need to use this amazing head start we've been given and run. I pull out all the things Khadijah put into my pockets and rearrange them so that they're easier to carry. I drink about a third of the water from the bottle, give another third to Sadhu, then haul myself to my feet and pick him up again. He cries out in pain, but we have to move, so I try not to listen. I continue away from the camp, carefully now, gently picking my way through the bush, so as not to leave an easy trail to follow. You got Sadhu out, I tell myself over and over to keep the pace. That's all that matters. I make it almost half a kilometer repeating that to myself before I stop, because it's not all that matters, and every step I take makes me wonder what happened to her. I put Sadhu down and rest against a tree while I think. He curls into a ball, making mewling noises. I try to focus. She could have gotten away. It's possible. She didn't have anyone to carry, and she's quick on her feet. Maybe. I guess I'll never know. I can hear the lie in my own voice. I pound my fist into the tree savagely. There's no way I'm going there again to see what happened to her. It would be suicide. The tree doesn't argue, but the voice in my head does. She tackled a boss for you. She could have run when Musa had you, but instead, she gave you the chance to get away. And to think, you called her selfish. Beyond the tops of the trees, I see the first orange streaks crossing the purple sky. It's dawn. For a few minutes, I just stand there, letting the exhaustion of too much time awake take over. Then I pull Sadhu to me. Sadhu, I lean my cheek against the top of his head. Hot, too hot. He seems to be getting warmer the farther we get from camp. I want to tell him that we're going to keep running, that he's safe now, and that everything's going to be all right. But what comes out of my mouth is, Sadhu, I'm sorry. We're going back.